Hey, now, gang, welcome to the 66th installment of the Paper Street Podcast. We appreciate you tuning in whenever, wherever, and however you're doing so to this genre film and filmmaking-centric program presented by Paper Street Pictures. Normally, it's myself, Shawn Talley, at the helm alongside Becky Sayers, but she is occupied with some travel work-related stuff at the moment, so I'm going to brave this particular interview alone. And before I pitch to it, let me give you a little info on it. There's a new film called The Bunker, which is now on VOD outlets, all their big ones, Amazon, Vudu, Fandango, Google Play, wherever you rent or buy movies. It is directed and co-produced by a gentleman named Brain Hanson, who we are big fans of, and it is starring and co-produced by an actress named Chelsea Edmundson, who you might have seen recently in movies like The Iron Claw. She's also in Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, among many more. They both joined me today to talk about this film, which again, out now on VOD outlets, and they get into a little bit of how it came to be, how they ended up with horror icons, both Tobin Bell and Tony Todd, in one of his final on-screen performances in their film. So without further ado, let me pitch now to a talk with both Brain Hanson and Chelsea Edmundson, and I'll be back on the other side to wrap it up. So enjoy this conversation about The Bunker. We are joined today by a pair of folks behind the new film, The Bunker. First up, he is a U.S. Army veteran, a teacher at Mount St. Mary's University in Los Angeles, and a filmmaker whose debut feature, The Black String, is available now on Amazon Prime, among other spots. And we will get into more of all of that with him in a few here. He is the co-writer and director of The Bunker. He is Mr. Brain Hanson. Welcome to the program, Brian.
Hey, Shawn, thanks for having me on.
Glad to have you. Good to see you again. Also joining us here is an actor who has been seen in films including Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, A24's The Iron Claw, as well as Brian's film The Black String, and sci-fi indie comedy Robots. She's also appeared in TV shows including American Gigolo and Roswell, New Mexico. She is the star of said film, The Bunker. She is Chelsea Edmundson. Welcome to the show, Chelsea.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for having me.
So glad to have both of you here. We are going to be talking about The Bunker and a whole lot more. And what we typically do when we start off these shows is we kind of go all the way back to the beginning and we ask, what gave each of you the bug? What got you interested in film and genre and art? Was there a person, an experience, or like a piece of pop culture that maybe got you hooked early on?
For me, it was just my mom and dad. You know, my mom is really into old classic Hollywood, like huge TCM fan, huge Rodgers and Hammerstein fan. And then my dad took me to see all kinds of like other things that I probably shouldn't have seen at a really young age. You know, like I remember going to see Saving Private Ryan in theaters. I saw like Hannibal in theaters when I was like 10 years old. Like I just had this great mix, and both of them love movies. So that's just how I got obsessed with movies.
Yeah, I have a very similar origin story as I think so many of us do. My dad exposing me to Twilight Zone marathons, you know, as a kid on July 4th or Memorial Day, watching movies like 2001 at a really young age, or Alien, and just really getting interested in thoughtful, thought-provoking, weird sort of movies and TV shows, even spaghetti westerns. You know, I loved Sergio Leone's spaghetti western trilogy. And then I think another side of me is I just wanted to know about everything in the world and what it was like to live in different places and have different jobs and careers, and really strongly interested in, I almost wish I could live 1,000 lives, and movies were a gateway into that from a young age. And then jump to high school and you and your buddies got camcorders and you play, you know, pull out your old G.I. Joes and making little movies. I've heard this from so many folks that make movies today. And I think that the last thing is dreams were a big important thing for me. I'm a very vivid dreamer dreams would stick with me for days afterwards, or really intense nightmares or strange experiences. So it was all very creative, and I wanted to bring these visions to life. When I saw David Lynch in my teenage years, I kind of understood it. As weird and esoteric as it was, I understood like this is a director communicating a vision, and like hearing a musician, a guitarist, and kind of understanding or feeling like you understand why he's playing the way he's playing. That's the way I felt about film, and that was going to be my path to telling stories.
To echo Roger Ebert, he always called movies empathy machines. I do believe exposing kids to art, and like you said, challenging art like Lynch maybe at a young age, can just open up stuff they didn't even know they were thinking about. But it's good that both of your folks kind of gave you a little bit of that. I know that's sort of becoming a lost thing nowadays with the younger kids, not necessarily. If their parents don't expose them to anything old, they're not knowing anything from like pre-20 years ago, which is a currently depressing thing I keep finding with my son's friends. None of them have ever heard of Star Wars or Star Trek. And I'm like, seriously? Like it's
wow.
That's wild. My mom is still exposing me to movies. Like we've been on a Betty Davis kick lately, and she's just been showing me all kinds of movies. Nice. Like we still do that, you know. It's like it's a lifelong thing that you can have with your family. So that's a shame that that more people aren't doing that. And Star Wars, like not knowing what
I
Star Wars is,
know.
that's wild.
I know. I think that one thing Disney does really well is like make something for every age group. There's like cartoon versions, there's teenage shows, there's adult shows. So there's no need to find anything old anymore, though, or anything even current if you just only watch Netflix or only watch a certain streamer nowadays. Sorry, that's just tangenting. But no, Chelsea, in your case, I mean, knowing that early on, did you jump into school plays? Was acting always the thought, or were you looking into other avenues or creative avenues? Excuse me.
Well, I started as a dancer, and I actually went through a performing arts program in high school, and got in auditioning as a dancer. And then when I got into that program, I like knew I wasn't going to be a professional dancer. I just wasn't good enough. I mean, I was good enough to get into that program, but I knew that was not going to be my career. And I was really interested in acting even before I went. And then after I left that, I remember I was like going into my junior year of high school, and I was just like, this is what I want to do. And then pretty much ever since then, it's just, that's what I've been working towards and pursuing. And I did plays. I did plays in college. I majored in theater for a while before I switched to business. So I did a lot of plays in college before I switched majors, and I done plays in LA. I did like Chicago, the musical, very, very off Broadway. Like I've experimented in stage for sure. And I love doing stage work. And I definitely feel like live performance makes you a better actor on film. And I definitely encourage other actors to do theater and to get out on stage because it certainly helps.
Right. And Brian, in your case, you have this interesting pivot of the military. So was that something that, you thought you'd do early on, or is that a family tradition? Or how did you go from the kind of art brain to going, well, maybe the military might help me segue into a different professional career?
Yep. I have 2 chapters in Los Angeles. I always in my life thought that it would be on my life resume that I had served in the military. Many people in my family have served. So I just assumed at some point I would. In high school, I played sports and loved punk rock and death metal. So I wasn't in theater or anything like that, but I love to write like creative stories. I got on this Tennessee Williams kick where I was like, just Tennessee Williams spoke to me, although I had no interest in being in theater, club, or drama. It was really just movies. And I ended up going up to Cal State Northridge out of high school. So I went straight to film school, got the bug, directed tons of short films, just lived and died in that edit bay and just spent every disposable dollar I had on making my short films. Got out of, I graduated from Cal State Northridge and kept working on short films, working as a PA. So I got to see how big productions were put together, worked as an assistant at production companies. But I really, in order to keep pursuing that passion side, I went all in on the bartending. So I was a bartender all over LA during the glory years. And at some point there, I just was watching the news day in and day out, after 9/11 and just feeling, why am I here behind a bar, this kind of glitzy, glammy life, trying to make movies and tell something, make important statements in life when up on the news, we're in Iraq and Afghanistan, and whether you thought we should have been there or not, I just felt I had to be there with those guys, and I was going to regret it in my life if I didn't do it. And I was only getting older. So I realized some things in life you will run out of time. In your 20s, teens and 20s, you don't realize you will run out of time to do certain things. So I just up and left and enlisted in the Army, ended up volunteering and making it with the 75th Ranger Regiment, 3rd Battalion out in Georgia, deployed to Afghanistan several times. And I did decide when it was time to re-enlist, I knew I wanted to come back to LA to pursue movies. So I came back to LA sort of reinvigorated with not only that Lynchian passion of like, just tell the stories that you dream of. I came back with a real military attention to detail, pragmatism. So I was committed all the way, enough to even leave the military and not make that become a career. So that started my chapter 2 in Hollywood.
That's interesting. I mean, not to dismiss it as like you're checking a box, but the fact that you never lost the bug or the creativity to go back to that's something, especially, considering all that you went through, multiple deployments, you said. So I'm sure you saw some stuff, but also bringing back perspective, among other things, not just attention to detail, but life experience.
Yeah. And that's what I want. I wanted to know if I was telling a story, putting themes out there, that I really believed in it. I really, really believed in it. And it wasn't just photocopying. Hey, why don't we do like it's Sopranos, but it's also like vampires, which I think a lot of Hollywood folks, they live in a bubble. It is what it is. If you're in the industry, you got to be all in, and it becomes a lot of copy on a copy on a copy on a copy. And I always looked up to the Werner Herzogs and Oliver Stones types who really went out there and saw something, or lived a life. And I had to be that. I had to do that to feel right about moving forward and telling stories for audiences. So I'm glad I did it. And it was for, as I say, artistic and patriotic reasons.
Right. And then Chelsea, you mentioned kind of from junior high onward, you knew what you were going to do. Did you have that moment? Is there a single moment where you're like, oh my God, I feel like I made it? Was it just being on the first major production, or was there a moment where like they called cut and people applauded, or was there some moment in your acting career so far where you were just like, all right, I'm real. I am an actor?
I mean, I have felt like, as an actor, you go through waves, you go through these ups and downs that I think it's important to be really honest about, because there's a lot of people pursuing it that, you see a lot of the A-list actors with this trajectory that's like always, always up. But for a lot of actors, it's more waves, it goes up and down. So about halfway through college, when I was 20, I moved to LA because I was like, I'm not getting any younger. I thought I was like old, I was like, I got to get out there right now. And I transferred my credits. That's why I switched majors, actually. I transferred my credits, took classes by night at a different college, also worked in bars like Brian. And I just wanted to start auditioning. And pretty quickly, I booked national commercials. And it was during the heyday when like you could book a national commercial and pay for your like whole year. And I did that time and time again, like through several years of my 20s. So I would book these commercials and work in bars. And I just didn't have like money problems as an actor all through like my early and mid 20s. So I was kind of like, wow, like I kind of have made it. I'm not famous, but like I'm okay and I'm doing this as a living, and isn't this great? And then the commercial industry changed a lot. Probably, I guess like 10 years ago now, 10 years ago. A lot less of them are SAG, a lot more of them are non-union. And I had to get a lot more scrappy and really focus more on booking film and television if I was going to be able to make a living doing this and not just, rely on commercials. And so I've had times where I've almost given up like a million times. I've had times where I'm like, oh, I think this is going to be it. And I've had the agents, I was like briefly repped by Untitled. Like when I booked American Gigolo, and they were like, this is it. This is it. This is going to make you. This is going to make your career. And, that show, as much as I'm proud to be on it, and I'm really happy I met John Bernthal through that. He's a friend and he's awesome. It just wasn't a very well-received show. It wasn't a hit. And that happens sometimes. And so I feel like you have these ups and downs. And as an actor, you really got to have a thick skin and roll with the punches. And you really have to, at some point, be like, I'm in this for the long haul. And because I think I'm also a filmmaker and I love movies, like I love movies so much, I've definitely realized I'm in it for the long haul and I can weather the storms for sure.
Brian, anything similar in that regard? Like, was it being on your first feature, The Black String, or was there some kind of moment just working on something large? I know you actually PA'd and more on many a big project, but have you had that kind of moment yet where you're like, I'm a legit, not just a patriot, but a filmmaker, to use your words?
I've always worked in the trenches, like as a PA on HBO's Barry season 1, as an assistant to Matthew Rhys on Perry Mason, or when making these movies, it's just like editing to 3 a.m. in the morning and then rushing over to your screening, just jumping in the shower, putting on, a collared shirt and showing up bleary-eyed and no sleep. So I feel like I have not ever had time, or I've been working so blue collar on these projects that even when you get to your red carpet premiere, you're exhausted, you're proud. But I feel like it's been amazing to stand on a set like The Black String, my first feature, and say, oh my God, there's 30 people here to make my vision come to life. It's so flattering and amazing. So I have felt it that way. But have I felt like I've made it? I made it. I feel like I'm so busy in the trenches just digging ditches that I haven't had time to look up and say, I've made it. But when you get the festival run after all that hard work and people do want to talk to you about your movie, those interactions when the fans, they might even be fans, but they're there to see your movie. And they
the interested parties.
The interested parties, when they want to talk to you and you're like, oh, I can stop slaving behind the keyboard editing or building sets or making phone calls and just say, this is why we did it. We did it to talk to people about the movie, and they're legit interested. And if you see like young film students or people coming up or they want to make their first feature and they really do, wow, how did you do it? I think those are the moments. They're smaller. It's not like a big moment where I've made it. But when people are interested and they admire what you've been able to do, when you have that even one-on-one interaction, that's when I get a little feeling of like, okay, I've done something.
I don't know when I would ever be like, I've made it. Like I'm sitting here trying to think like what that would entail. I just feel like it's an industry that you can't really get too comfortable. And I don't know I don't even know what that would look like. I'd have to think about it.
A 4-bedroom house with a vacation home by a lake. I think that's when you might start to say,
I would like, maybe if I was on set with James Cameron or something, I would be like, maybe I have made it.
No, honestly, there's no right or wrong answer to that question. It's more just, it was kind of an organic follow up to you guys. But it's honestly, both of your answers are humbling in that, like, no, we just keep doing the work, and it's the little interactions that'll make you feel more than just one singular moment where you look around. Brian, to pivot actually to the bunker, speaking of these ideas, and you want to bring real ideas to the table, there's a lot of great ideas floating around in this script. What was the initial germ of this movie? Was it you woke up from an Andromeda strain dream, or was it something about COVID? Was it something about the isolation? What kind of started this journey of the bunker?
It was absolutely a moment in time. It was the COVID lockdown. So we had just released The Black String after a wonderful festival run, and the future is wide open. And then boom, the world gets locked down and no one knew if we were going to make a movie again. I think everyone can relate to this. There was no vaccine. There was SAG. Everything was shut down. So we were sitting around, Charles Bunce and I were sitting around his office at Mount St. Mary's University. We met when I went to film school the second time in an MFA program, film program, and he does run the program along with Kelby Thwaites. And we said, we don't want to wait to find out. Let's just do something. And we looked at the space we were sitting in. It was an empty building that they actually had to leave in 6 months to go to a new location. And it was very austere, kind of looked military, scientific, Kubrick-esque. And we're like, maybe we could tell a story here. And we did want it to relate to the time we were living in, but not obviously, like not on the nose. So we sort of reverse engineered. We both love science fiction. Said, people are isolated. We can only have one actor on set at a time. This place does sort of look like a military bunker. And we reverse engineered it from there. Let's do a horror sci-fi movie where a group of people are in their own bunkers around the country and they're kind of getting picked off one by one and having terrible visions. They can't trust their own minds. And it was definitely a sort of metaphor for what we were all going through during COVID. So it was reverse engineered and born in the moment. But there was no doubt we were always going to do something horror, science fiction, in that genre.
And having worked with Chelsea, of course, with Black String, I'm imagining she was early on in the process. Chelsea, did he call you up and pitch you this idea and you were probably eager to work at that point?
So we're all kind of a friend group from Black String for sure, as well as colleagues. And Kaylee Fortune, who's another producer on it, she and I have become very, very close friends, like best friends. She was also on Black String. She was involved with Bunker already with Bunce and Kelby and Brian. And she was like, they're writing this sci-fi script. Would you want to do it? And at the time, the lead was a male character. She was like, it's going to be for like low budget. We're just trying to get this done and we don't have a ton of money. And I was like, at this point in my career, if I did this, I know it's going to be a lot of work. Like it's going to be, we're filmmakers, like even though I'm an actor, I'm helping make this movie. And I was like, I'd want to play the lead, or I just don't want to do it. And she was like, well, let me talk to Brian and Bunce about it. She didn't shut it down. She was like, let me talk to them about it. And then I got word that they were willing to change that role from a male role to a female role so that I could potentially do it. And that was obviously very flattering, and it's still an honor. And I was like, hell yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
That's interesting to hear, because I would have never guessed that character was once a male. So to that point, Brian, did you have to change much as far as like a brother and a father dynamic with the lead character? Or was all that the same and you just were able to just gender swap it essentially?
We had to adjust the script. Yeah, you just kind of, it's a guy, this younger guy scientist who's going to be underground and the rookie scientist. That was all the same. And, the arc kind of is similar, but with it being Chelsea, and we were excited at that idea because we needed someone that we could trust and was a great actor in that time. It wasn't, you really, really needed to trust everyone you were with because it was a touch and go period there in trying to make movies. And I know what Chelsea did on The Black String, what she's capable of. And we thought it through. And so we had to write it around Chelsea's persona. The adjustments we made were around Chelsea's persona. And she's probably on the younger end of what a scientist of this caliber would be. And let's just say Chelsea she can play the leading lady in the femme fatale. So there was no way that there wasn't going to be romantic sparks somewhere in there. So we had to introduce her immediate boss, played by Chad Michael Collins, played Sam Ellis. We were like, let's turn this into like a workplace situation where a new female has got a job and her boss is maybe flirting with her more than he should be, and what's really going on there, and is he trying to leverage that his authority with trying to get a date? So we kind of created that little subplot. We weave that theme in. And then another thing is that we made some of the older characters always kind of teasing or really digging at Chelsea. Colin Douglas plays the grouchy older guy, Dr. Finley Barlow from Harvard, and he makes fun of her that she only went to New Mexico State, and he calls her Malibu Barbie. So none of that was in there when it was Mike. They would have called him like dumb surfer dude or something. But when we're sitting here working with Chelsea, it's like, no, let's incorporate these other themes that someone like her might face in this situation, where people more chauvinistic or really elitist.
Yeah,
they're very like elitist scientists who
That's
are.
What I was wondering, because it all felt very real. Because that is exactly the misogyny a woman scientist probably would face from not just the background, the schooling, but just being a woman. Just by default, you might be lesser than to the old grouchies.
Oh, I have no doubt. I have no doubt that women in STEM have had to claw their way to the top. I'm sure. I liked it that she didn't have an Ivy League education. I liked it that she went to a state school, UNM. That was kind of personal because I really started my career in New Mexico. Like a lot of my first TV shows and like Army of the Dead shot in New Mexico. So I was like, that's kind of a fun little Easter egg, So that was really cool too.
And I'll point out that we didn't single out New Mexico State for no reason. I did think of them as a very underdog school based on my history here on the West Coast, and New Mexico State doesn't always have a great athletic program. So from a sports perspective, it's fun to be like New Mexico State, but they are located really close to Sandia and White Sands, where a lot of, the first nuclear bomb was dropped, and DARPA. So it does make sense why she would be at New Mexico State and have this sort of access to this high level DARPA program. But just saying New Mexico State, and I really would love, we got to do a podcast with New Mexico State University.
We totally do. I still have my shirt. I'll rep my shirt.
Yeah, but it made sense why it's New Mexico State, but I think being a state school and not a super athletic power made it fun to circle them and choose New Mexico State.
I didn't take it as the dig. Obviously it's a person that's unlikable on camera making the dig, so like you automatically like root for it in a way backwards. You're not like, oh, they must hate New Mexico State. It's more of a Harvard asshole being a Harvard asshole.
Yeah, totally.
So the question, I'm sure you've gotten this from everybody, is how did you go about bringing on, two horror icons in Jigsaw and Candyman respectively, and Tobin Bell and Tony Todd? Was that something early on you were looking at, just certain actors for those two roles that had the gravitas, or what was the play for both of them?
So this movie, when I came on, it was like a boulder that's just rolling downhill and getting bigger and bigger and bigger, And at first, I don't know that you guys knew if you were going to go that direction and have that budget, right, Brian? And then as more investors got involved in things, it was like we realized that we kind of wanted to pursue some bigger names, and you really have to have a casting director to do that. Like you can't, I don't know, like I think a surprising amount of filmmakers don't know, you can't just email these people's agents. Like you can't, you know what I mean? You have to have someone. So I reached out to a couple casting directors and asked them to help us out with our budget and everything. And David Guglielmo, he's a casting director that he brought me in for a lot of shit that like when I was just like a nobody with no resume, I actually sent him a self-tape for this movie. Like I didn't have an agent and I just sent it to him, and I ended up getting a call back and getting like pinned for it. And casting directors never do that. Like a lot of times if you send them a tape, you're like blacklisted. So I knew he was like pretty friendly in that regard. And I knew that he had connections to certain horror icons. He had casted a lot of horror films, and he graciously agreed to help us. And that's how we got Tony Todd and Tobin Bell cast. That was David.
Yeah, he's an early guest of our program, David Guillermo, and we actually titled that episode, "Yes, You Need a Casting Director," to Chelsea's point, because that's one of the first things that gets skirted. And to her point, you can't just cold call some of these people. They will be like, please go away. So yes, a casting director is invaluable on any low budget, micro budget, any kind of movie like this. It comes in handy for that very reason.
And our other actors helped us out too, like Chad Collins. I did another movie with him, and he helped us out for our budget too. Like he really helped us out with that. And Kaylee and I kind of like took over casting the other roles, which it doesn't mean we chose them, but we just like reached out to agents that I knew and asked them to send like their best actors for those specs, so that Brian didn't have to go through like 5,000 tapes. Right. It was more like, 50 or 60 per role. And we kind of helped narrow those down, and then that's how we filled out our other cast.
Yeah, we thought we were going to have to handle it on our own. And then Chelsea brought David. Colin, who plays the aforementioned grouchy Finley Barlow, he's a friend, a really longtime friend who was also in the Black String.
Yes.
Spencer Langston, who plays Chelsea's brother Ben, he is the son of one of our EPs who's an actor and also was an all-star PA and construction guy, an animal. Debbie was we met her through in audition, so she's new.
Yes.
And then Christopher Matthew Cook was new. Chad was a friend of Chelsea. So we really kind of wanted to go with friends and people we could just immediately reach out to. So it was a friends and family thing. And then David really gave us the access to that horror genre icon place, which led us to Blood Oath, which led us to Paper Street Pictures.
Yes.
Came on to co-produce.
And here we all are.
And here we are. And we're glad to have you. But no, good to know. And then I know Final Destination really tried to help market with the Tony Todd's final performance, and I think chronologically it is, but are we able to say this is Tony Todd's final released performance?
I think there might have been one or two after us. I can't be sure, but I know that when we were in the festivals, there was a couple still in post. So I have to imagine.
Brian can't say that, but I'm going to say that.
Yes.
Those movies will never see the light of day.
We legitimately might be.
One of his. That's still a nice boon to say. Obviously, those circumstances are terrible. You don't want to say like it's good that he's passed, unfortunately, but to be able to say you were one of his last performances, that's a cool boon for the film. Please don't take that any other way, listeners.
So,
obviously.
Yeah, just to be able to have worked with Tony, like he has had such swagger and charisma, and Kaylee, our other producer, we just loved him. We thought he was so fun and so funny. And it was just, I got to read for him. I read for all of the actors as playing all the actors. So because we could only have one at a time during COVID. So it's just like me across the room having to feed Tony Todd all his lines. And I was really nervous because he's so iconic, and I was nervous with Tobin too. But it was like such a gift to be able to do that as an actor and to just kind of be able to spar and go back and forth with them all day and talk about all these different characters with them. Like it was such an honor.
The nature of it being like a one-hander, the COVID, the isolation, and two-handers at times, is this something to pull back the curtain? Is this something you're able to knock them out like a day a piece? Because it feels like they're single locations. You were maybe able to book them 1-2 days max each, or no?
We did most of the fellow scientists in one day, and it's the same bunker, it's the same room. And the reason we picked military is that everything in the military is generally uniform.
Right.
One barracks on one base looks the same as a barracks on another base 5 states away. So they just had to jump in the chair. We'd swap out the chair, change the numbers on the wall, move like set dressing around. And we aimed for one a day. Sharif, another producer and longtime friend who played Dr. Jacques Basset, he did one day. Debbie did one day. Spencer did a couple days. But I think that everyone else kind of went to the 2 to 3 day place. However, Tony did knock out 20 pages in one day.
Yeah, I was going to say Tony was, I mean, it was incredible. And I remember it was Tony Todd Day. That's what we were calling it because we knew we had one day with him. And remember, Brian, it was like this big, like, it's Tony Todd Day. We're all freaking out and hoping that we're going to get everything. And he delivered 100%.
The nature of the performance being, and I just want to clarify to everyone that this movie is like 50 to 60% a normal movie where you're just following Chelsea around her bunker with a real movie treatment, the cinema camera. But the way that she has to interact with most people is through a video call. So it was very doable for us. If we ask someone to have to pull out 10 to 20 pages, they could have their script on the desk right off camera. And if they needed to look down, we could throw a glitch in the video call. So we weren't asking people to memorize and knock out 20 pages all at one time. We did want to be fair to them, and the nature of video calls and being underground, there's tons of static, there's tons of glitches. So it was a lot to ask, and everyone was an absolute beast, but we were not cruel and unusual.
No, nobody would assume so. I'm just going to now assume that every time there's
Ryan.
a glitch. Chelsea forgot her line. Every time I see a glitch, that's what I'll think next time I watch it. I'm kidding. For the filmmakers out there, that glitch was if we needed to jump ahead, if we just needed to compress a scene, you can't do that. In a regular movie, you're looking for the cutaway and maybe it can't work. But with, again, video technology, especially if you're
100 feet underground, we could just use those glitches whenever we needed to.
Yeah, and I just want to say too that, if you're making an indie film and you think that you're just going to hire random actors that can do like double digit pages a day, like you've got another thing coming. That only worked because it's Tony. There's only and Chad's the same way. Chad's a beast. He can do a lot of pages. But that's, I think, where experience comes in with performers. That is not easy to do. And I would not advise it unless your actors are very, very experienced or they have some kind of a background like soaps or something where they've done that a lot.
100% agree with that. We knew we had to go to SAG at a certain point. Just the quality and experience of actors were going to guarantee that these higher page counts could be pulled off and pulled off well. And we have so much technical jargon, scientific, military jargon that's tough. That's not normal speak. Like you really need to absorb those words and be able to say them in flow, like you've said them 100 times. So I remember Chelsea and Chad and Tony just really taking time to, a couple minutes alone, just going over how are they going to get these words out of their mouth. And you need talented and experienced actors to be able to pull that off because you can't just ad lib your way through that.
Yeah, and it's stressful even for me. I mean, I don't smoke, but I was smoking cigarettes on this set. I was like, am I going to get through 15 pages today? I was like, shit, it's definitely not advisable, but I'm so glad that I had the experience because I have subsequently had to do that on other projects. And now I just know that I can, it gives you a confidence once you've done it, but it was scary.
What is Tyler Perry? Tyler Perry, they're claiming that they're shooting 50 pages a day or something.
I think they shoot like soaps, like it's multicam and it's like they're set up for it. And yeah, it's still really hard for the performers. I'm sure it's nuts, but that's not typical probably of like a film set, I wouldn't say.
No, and then without spoiling, if you're able to, Brian, was there any major changes in the story as you were shooting, whether it was linear or not? Was there any kind of major plot point you had to pivot from, or did you have it pretty mapped out with your co-writer, Charles, all the way up to the ending?
It was pretty tightly mapped out. The three things that I know we had to, directors and writers, especially the writers on set, I'm a director co-writer and Charles is producer co-writer, so we could huddle and adjust on the fly. But the three moments where, and every director has one moment or a few in a movie where they just hit a brick wall where things are not working and you need to get it done for whatever reason. The prop didn't show up, the set fell apart. It's just not working when you're seeing it rehearsed. And that's where you really figure out if you're a problem solver or not. One is we had a specific death. I won't say which one. And the prop really wasn't there, or the prop couldn't handle the way we envisioned it. So we had to reimagine right there the way that this person, their demise was going to take place. And it worked out great. But we had to rethink like lighting changes to sort of not show things as much as we thought we were. And we had to move it to a different place in the room. And makeup, Wendy Fisher and Zoe had to jump in and change the plan on what we were going to do makeup wise. Another time happened in post. This was a great idea by Charles. We never had Tobin and Tony appear at the same time. And with Icon, CANDYMAN, and Jigsaw, which is why so many people are interested in this film. How are we not going to have them kind of appear and have a little mini showdown, if you will? So in post, we created the scene midway through where Chelsea's sort of going through this mental breakdown where they both, originally it was just going to be Tobin talking to her, and Charles had the great idea, let's throw Tony in there so they're both kind of sparring for Chelsea's mind. And that was real fun, and we had to do that for the fans. And then lastly, we shot this really, really cool final scene that in post just required so much VFX that we were not going to be able to pull it off given our very small budget. I'm not afraid to say we were ULB for anyone who's wondering. Ultra low budget.
Yeah,
you can look
we
that
were
up on
ultra low
SAG
budget
and figure that out.
Yeah.
But we had to rethink that, and we pulled off in the spirit of what we wanted to do. I think we still delivered the idea, but we just had to face reality that we weren't going to have the money, the time to pull off this sort of epic Hollywood sci-fi final few shots that we had in mind. So we had to dig into the real indie roots and say, how do you pull it off within our means?
that kind of leads me to a question we ask a lot of folks who work on these productions. For both of you, because it might be very different, although Chelsea has producing history as well, but what would you say was the single biggest challenge or maybe single biggest hurdle? Maybe not just a prop showing up. Was there a full-on something with COVID happened, another thing happened, a lockdown happened, your, electric went out, anything? Like, what was the biggest thing maybe on this production itself that you would say halted or really threw a wrench into things?
I think things went really well on set. For our tiny little crew, I got to give a shout out to Becca Christopher and the Bunce clan, Zoe and Zaffi, and so many people from their community and friends and family that built amazing sets for us running to Home Depot. So those things held up. Like, we were going to Home Depot and coming back and throwing things on the wall and lighting it, and it just looked cool. And we were waiting for a door to fall down or something to happen. None of that happened. Nobody got COVID. It was like, that all went swell. It was in post-production that we realized what making a science fiction film really means. The amount of screen replacement that we had to do and the amount of storytelling that we had to tell with every screen replacement. We're looking at DNA strands and infographics and lower thirds. And there's so much storytelling happening there that we didn't realize. Charles Bunce and Kelby Thwaites and I, who were kind of the key post team there, we just had a moment a few months into post where we said, I don't think we're going to get this done in 8 months or a year, because there's so much work and we don't have the money to really farm this out many places. So we just had to buckle up and watch a lot of YouTube tutorials and figure out that each screen and every cutaway to a graphic is its own mini production. So that halted post by a lot, and we just had to realize what we had signed up for. We didn't foresee how involved that was going to be, but it turned out great, and we couldn't have got it done without a bunch of talented folks coming in to help us out where they could. But it was asking favors, which meant we were going to have to take on the brunt of it.
I think for me personally, the hardest thing was just no sleep. Like, I have never worked longer hours than on Bunker with like very little turnaround. And like one night I accidentally got locked in the studio and I thought I was going to have to sleep in the bunker. Do you remember that, Brian? I was like, somebody come get me. Like,
we had a tent. We had a tent in there in case anyone did have to spend the night.
I was good at that. My character had these like bunk beds, and I was like, God, I guess I'm just gonna sleep here. And like, we'd all been laying in those bunk beds, so they were gross too. I was like, I'm just gonna sleep in this nasty bunk bed where we've all been just laying in here. That was just the hardest part for me. Like, obviously, because I'm a producer, there were times that I wasn't like turning in my turnaround to SAG and stuff like that, because like I'm a producer on it. And I was getting like some nights like 2 or 3 hours of sleep and just getting up and doing it again. And I was kind of like losing it a little bit, I think. And luckily, Kaylee and I, our producer, we lived together for the duration of the shoot because she lives a couple blocks from the studio we shot at. So even just those like 40 minutes that I would have had to drive in from the valley, just that extra sleep became crucial. So we just kind of had to live together, which was a really fun experience. But she got me through it. She was like, good morning, here's your double shot coffee, whatever. And then she would whisk me off after set. She's like, Brian might want to talk to me about something for the next day. And she'd give him like 10 minutes. And then she's like, she's got to go to bed, Brian, But that's indie filmmaking, and it's good memories. But I'm not going to lie, it was a little tough for me. I'm not a badass military guy like Brian.
And one funny thing that a lot of filmmakers have dealt with or had to, I will say, Chelsea, that final day when we had to we had to shoot out the rest of our pages, wrap out of that building and literally move a film school and our set out within hours. It was the most incredible feat I've ever seen of just tearing walls down and throwing it in the back of a moving truck before the sun came up. But that day we were in the laboratory, and you'll see everyone is wearing this sort of like bio suit, and the masks were fogging up and we weren't able to see the actors' faces. And we were holding little fans and like trying to wipe down their visors, and they were sweating to death in these things. So I think that was an on-set situation that slowed us down.
Specifically Chad's suit. Chad, like I thought we were going to kill Chad. Like that suit he's so just not a complainer and just tough his way through it, but his suit was rough.
When dealing with suits and masks, there's a whole sweating, heating up, fogging thing you got to deal with. And you got to wait till it unfogs. And that was tough because we were fighting the clock. So I remember Chelsea holding fans up under your mask and just doing anything.
Trying to keep it from not fogging. Yeah. You also just, I feel like for indies, you have to have talent that's not candy ass talent. Like people that are not going to be like bitch and piss and moan about everything. because it's just too hard, and you have to have actors that are willing to be more like filmmakers and willing to be team players. And I feel like we were lucky to have that with our whole cast.
Sure, and it's funny. It's the littlest thing, like fogging up of the mask, that becomes the things that halt you the most. That and apparently the screens, which again, is that a lesson learned, Brian? The next sci-fi movie, it'll be less screens. It'll be a little more analog, maybe.
Oh, next movie is like a cell phone maximum. Okay. Science fiction with a cell phone in your pocket. Right. It's a lesson, really. You have to deliver the world that you said you would. So fantasy, military, period piece, science fiction, be aware of what scale you're going to, because if you don't world build in every angle, everywhere the camera points, you're going to ruin that suspension of disbelief. So that was a hard lesson learned. I know how to do it. I feel comfortable on a Star Trek set now.
Right.
I understand what needs to be done and what all the different artists are up against. But that was a big surprise.
Brian, you would kill it with a Star Trek budget. Okay, they would not be ready for you to do Star Trek. You would slay.
Right. And you guys, in case you're not sure, beyond the aliens and the which are given away right in the very beginning of the film, but you'll know this is sci-fi fantasy because there's also a woman president, so just be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, that was
hopefully that will become less sci-fi in the future.
Oh please, from your mouth to whoever's ears.
We wanted to place this in a super near future, not today, not literally in the moment, but by doing a few world details like that, it puts it in a quasi near future.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's hoping, anyway. Final question, not so much related to the bunker, but just in general, some we asked before we pivot to the questionnaire bit is, what kind of advice would you give to any aspiring filmmaker and or actor, that maybe some words of wisdom that you've picked up along the way from life experience, from military, from filmmaking itself?
Yeah, I'll talk to the writer, director, producers out there. Do what is within your means. Don't overextend. We all want to make the Lord of the Rings or Star Wars or Platoon, or Saving Private Ryan. But you really need, go work on other movies to see what it takes. Go PA, go do those things, because you learn by seeing. And when you see, oh, wow, that was 6 hours to pull that little blood gruesome gag off on camera, and it took 4 or 5 people to do. You need to see it happen to understand the resources and time required. And then when it's time, you're just chomping at the bit. I want to go make my first feature, and please make a lot of short films first to work the kinks and feel it within your bones. I know how to do this. When you make your first feature, don't overextend yourself. Look at Her, look at Primer, look at Nolan's first film. I think it's The Following. Really, really simple, because when you get too ambitious technically, and you need to know why it's ambitious. Again, you've worked on other movies and saw what it takes. It won't let you express the vision and the rhythm that you really have. So be smart about scaling. And the other thing we mentioned, you can make a movie with your friends. And if that's what you have to do, cast wise, newer actors or unknown actors, don't spend a lot of money, because your commercial viability is probably small. So be smart. And if you are going to start to creep up towards that 6-figure number and beyond, you really need to find a way to get a recognizable name, a name that moves the needle, as they say, because in the end, it is a business, and those sales companies, distribution companies, and festivals are first and foremost going to say who's in it. Don't underestimate how important that is. So if you can't get a name, spend small. If you're going to spend some more money, do everything within your power to do something to increase your commercial viability.
I think if there's anything else you'd rather do that, because this is a very, very hard industry. If you're like, I love this and I also love this, do the other thing. You really have to work in this industry consistently. And even not, there's times I haven't worked consistently. There's times where I've had dry spells and I'm like, what is going on? And it's very frustrating. It's a hard, hard business. But if there's nothing else that you'd rather do, you just have to keep going. I know a lot of people say that, and it might sound cliche to say, but my brother-in-law, Sawyer Smith, he knows that I love Billy Bob Thornton. I'm a huge Billy Bob Thornton fan. So he went to see him in concert, and he was like, I am going to get him to make a video for my sister-in-law. So, and he did. He found him. He's really good at stuff like that, and was like, my sister-in-law, she lives in LA. She's an actress. She's out there. Billy Bob's also from Arkansas, and I'm from the Boot Hill in Missouri. So we're not that far apart in our origins. And Sawyer sent me this video. He's like, Billy Bob made you a video. And, Sawyer's like, if you could give her any advice, what would it be? And he's like, keep after it, honey. That's the main thing, and that's why I tell people, I'm like, keep after it. That's the main thing. It's just, you just got to keep going.
And I would add exactly what Chelsea just said. Buckle up for this to be harder than you even expected. You're like, I know the mountain's going to be steep and it's going to be tough. When you get to the top of that mountain, if it's like the project, a scene, a few days of production, there may be even a bigger mountain the next day, and then even a bigger mountain after that. So really buckle up, intestinal fortitude, and just grit it out, because it really is going to be a tougher sled than you even expected. And don't be surprised when that happens. That's what breaks a lot of people off. And if you have that determination and there's nothing else you'd rather do, just fight through no matter what.
No, wise words. And to echo Chelsea's point, the less candy ash you are on these smaller productions, the more likely you'll have that grit to keep going. It needs to test you on some of the smaller stuff. Will test you in a lot of ways, so get you prepared for it. It's not that the big movies are cakewalks. It's just you do need to kind of grind a little bit to understand, or even doing other departments' jobs just to see like how hard art department works. You don't know till you do it. You can watch it, but boy, it's even more than you think. Sometimes last people out and all that kind of thing.
I will never, I'm going to say it now and I will stick to it. I will never fucking complain on a studio picture where I'm getting above scale and someone's bringing me an iced coffee and shit. I'm never going to complain about that, especially after doing movies like The Bunker, because like at that level, like it is a cakewalk. It is. Like, I'm sorry, but it is. Yeah. It's like there's people there that are designed to give you your space and give you your time and help you get what you need. Like, it's so much easier actually at that level. The only thing that may be a little different is the pressure, because they do expect you to deliver in those circumstances. I remember like on American Jiggle, I was nervous to work with Jon Bernthal because I admire him so much as an actor. Like I was like, you know, what if I'm not good enough? Like I really kind of had those like imposter syndrome shit. And then after our first day, I was like, I will say that movie, I don't know if it made, or that show, it didn't make me feel like I made it, but it did make me feel like I can work with that caliber of talent and I can hold my own. But I will say, like, after doing indies, like you just can't be on a set like American Gigolo or like Army of the Dead and complain. You just can't. And I don't like to be around people like that either. If I even sniff that on like a larger budget project, I'm getting away from that person because I don't want to be around that energy.
No, understood. The Bunker, again, is available on demand right now at all your major platforms, the Amazons, the iTunes, and such. So check this movie out. Starring Chelsea Edmundson, co-written and directed by Brain Hanson. We thank them for the proper interview. We're now going to pivot to what we call the Rapid Fire 15, which we always joke is neither rapid nor fire, really, but it is 15 questions. We kind of try to tailor it to what we know about the guests, but we do ask some kind of regular ones of every guest we've ever had. So we will jump in, and Chelsea offered to go first here in the break, so we will have her answer, and then Brian. And these will mostly be for both of you. I'll specify if one's like a just Brian or just Chelsea question. But starting us off, Chelsea, what movie do you think you've seen the most in your life?
Silence of the Lambs, easily done. I'm a huge Jodie Foster fan, like huge fan.
I would say that I've seen Apocalypse Now more than any other film.
This one, usually people have something tip of their tongue. It's funny because Chelsea also mentioned watching Hannibal way too young. So I guess you just found your way into that Red Dragon.
Yeah, I did. I'm also really obsessed with Anthony Hopkins. Like, I just think the way that was directed with those close-ups that are just like really just at their eyes. I mean, we see it a lot now, but at that time, you know, you didn't really see that. And that restraint that Anthony Hopkins has, I copied a lot. Jodie Foster, I would just like wanted to be her. I thought she was the coolest chick ever. Like I was just obsessed with it.
Yeah, our co-partner here, Cameron, who Brian knows, we were just talking the other day about how effective that misdirect is in that film when they think they're at the right house and you realize Jodie Foster's at the right house. And every time I've seen that in a couple repertory screenings, and you hear like an ooh in the crowd every time when it dawns on them what's happening. There's always a few first timers watching it, and it works every time on them.
And I notice new things every time I watch it, which is good. The movies like that, those are the best. When you notice new things that you're like, wow, I want to do that, or that's really interesting.
Yes, 100%. Question 2, is there a movie, a show, a song that maybe always gets you emotional or will always bring you to tears?
100%. The Legends of the Fall score, like James Horner's score.
Yes.
If I need to cry or anything, I will put that on my headphones and I can just full tears like anytime. Like I'll just go and cry. That's my cry on cue song.
It's a pretty lovely theme for sure.
It's beautiful.
Theme, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I would go with Changes by Black Sabbath. I'm a huge Black Sabbath fan. And, you know, you love the doom sort of sludgy rock that they're known for. But that particular song, just as a teenager and throughout life, I probably listened to it a million times and more, and during specific tough times or whatever, it comes up on my playlist. And that one always sort of puts me in a melancholy, reflective mood immediately.
Nice. You might be the first person to have a metal song for an answer for that, but I love it.
It doesn't sound metal if you listen to it.
Yeah,
Black Sabbath's changes.
From a metal band, yeah, maybe.
There's probably an orchestral version of it that's like gorgeous. We're going to have to, all of us, look after this.
There are many versions, and yes, you are correct, Chelsea. There is an orchestral version.
Inversely, question 3, what is the first film that really scared you? Could be a TV show too. First scared you, first gave you nightmares, really stuck with you at a young age?
For me, it was Gremlins. It's so funny now. And also that's a great universe. Like if I could be in any, like, well, it wouldn't be a sequel, I guess, because it'd be the third one, but it would be Gremlins. But as a kid, I thought it was scary and I thought they were under my bed.
For me, it would be Poltergeist. I was young enough for that to just be absolutely frightening. But in particular, near the end of the movie, when they bring the ghost creature through the door, that big white wispy, long-legged thing. I had never seen anything like that before. I was so young. It haunted me for years. I'd have to say Poltergeist.
Did you love it, though? Did you like being scared as a kid? Because I liked it, kind of. Like, I was scared, but I liked it.
I think I was so young that you're just scared. You think this is real. You think these things are really, you're going to, like, late at night, Skinamarink style, I'm going to walk, turn a corner and see that thing in my room. So it was more irrational. Yes. As you get older, you start to have fun with getting scared. I think my experience with Poltergeist, I was young enough to think that thing could manifest in any doorway. And be real. Yeah.
Also, shout out Tales from the Crypt. That was scary as shit as a kid, too.
You guys are mentioning some horror stuff. Question 4, what would you say is your favorite horror movie subgenre? Are you like a slasher person, psychological thriller, or something really niche like sci-fi horror, in Brian's case, maybe?
I'm psychological for sure. Like Silence of the Lambs. Some people say it's horror. Some people say it's thriller. I definitely like the thriller horror space. That I would definitely say that's my favorite.
Yeah, this one's easy for me. I'm currently working on a documentary with Charles Bunce about cosmic horror. Cosmic horror, absolutely, which is Lovecraftian type stuff. The Mist, Event Horizon, Hellraiser,
The Black
Prince
String.
of Darkness. The Black String has Lovecraftian undertones for sure. Annihilation, The Void, on and on. Stranger Things. Like I love it so much. I'm making a documentary about this. So cosmic horror all the way.
Nice. And then favorite TV show or even comfort show, if you will.
Oh, The American Office for sure. And no. I take it back. The Golden Girls. The Golden Girls 100. It's the Golden Girls.
Both are good answers. Brian, I'm going to actually get a little more niche with you because you've mentioned it twice. What is your favorite Twilight Zone episode?
Ooh, my favorite Twilight Zone episode, I think I'm going to go with the incident on Main Street, or I don't know, I don't remember the title, but the lights start flickering and the community thinks that basically becomes a witch hunt. Like in the end, it's aliens are messing with the power source.
Oh, Monsters Do on Maple Street?
Maple Street, Monsters on Maple Street.
That's one of the greats. Absolutely.
I'm writing it down.
Oh yeah, Monsters Do on Maple Street. Definitely. If you're going to watch like 5 Twilight Zone episodes, Chelsea, make sure that's one of them.
Okay, I'm going to watch it tonight.
I would have picked something a deeper cut had I been ready, but that one is just, it's hitting on so many levels and just seeing, and that's kind of my personal interest is how people start to turn on each other and kind of get whipped up into that witch hunt hysteria. I think it's a great example of a morality play with a cool sci-fi twist.
I didn't mean to take your answer. It may not be Twilight Zone, but do you have like a comfort watch show that's not that?
To be honest, I was going to say the Twilight Zone.
Okay, so that's why I had a feeling.
I didn't want to interrupt Brian, but I was like, Brian probably does watch the Twilight Zone as his comfort show. Okay.
Well, I'm telling you, because you rediscover them, there's so many to watch, and you just throw on Amazon or just put on season 1, and it's just there in the background, and it's so chill, and it's black and white. And it's like you can fall asleep to it, you can study with it in the background, or you can just sit down and enjoy an episode and you rediscover it 5 years later, 10 years later. So that's definitely a comfort watch. And number 2, to be honest, in the military, what got me through some really tough times, Futurama.
Nice, yeah. That is a fantastic show. Sorry, my brain started going, what else should we tell Chelsea to watch? Eye of the Beholder is a pretty classic one. Nothing in the Dark, which I revisited when Robert Redford passed away, is still a great one.
And you know what's spooky but cool?
Robert Redford's on it?
He was in an episode. I believe it's called Nothing in the Dark, and I apologize if I have that wrong.
I'm going to watch that. Robert, Sexy Redford.
There's and it's really effectively creepy. Once you know where it goes, you can't see it the same, but the old lady living in a cabin and she's freaked out as something is trying to break in. And then there's kind of like little creatures that she's trying to step on and block all the holes and lock all her doors. I won't give the twist away, but it's just one woman in an isolated cabin with something trying to get in. And again, like the Twilight Zone, there's a really cool twist at the end.
May or may
Mm.
not be Gremlins. We'll see.
I'm intrigued. Hey, I was like 4 when I saw Gremlins, and that was scary. Okay.
Oh no, I get it. It's all about like what age it's something hits you. Like the Incredible Hulk scared the shit out of me when I was a kid just because his transformation. I was just too young when I first saw it.
You couldn't fathom it. You're like,
He
what?
gets the crazy white eyes, you know. So in a lighter topic, question number 6: who would you both say? Sometimes this reveals people's ages more than anything, but who would you say was your first celebrity crush?
Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic for sure. I'm like obviously too old for him now, but he was definitely my number one.
You've been too
I'm
old for
joking.
a long, long
I'm
time.
joking. I know I'm joking. But I also feel like he and I would be like best friends. Like if we worked together, I feel like we would totally vibe. He seems cool.
I'm gonna have to go with yeah, good crush. How can I forget her name?
While you're thinking, can I say a girl crush too to play both sides? Rachel Weisz in The Mummy. I was like, holy shit, this is the most beautiful fucking woman I've ever seen. And I was like, God, please let me grow up to look like her. Like I was like, she's so beautiful, and I still have a crush on her. Okay, go Brian.
I was, how dare I forget her name? Groundhog Day. The beautiful
Oh, Andy
brunette.
McDowell.
Andy McDowell just you got your bikini crush type gal crushes too, but Andy McDowell in Groundhog Day, I was just like, she is so beautiful, she is so nice, she had a little southern charm coming through. I just thought, I don't know, it just kind of hit on all levels for me. I'm like, that is
She is still
the
so
perfect
hot.
woman.
Yeah, she is still. I'm like, that's a good one, Brian.
Right.
Andy McDowell.
She made a beautiful child too, Margaret Qualley, who's up and coming on the A list these days.
Yes. And she's a good actress too. I'm really excited to see what she does next.
We usually let the guests do these tangents on these rapid fire segments, but now Chelsea's got me doing a tangent. Somebody like a year or two ago said on some social media, like, what was your bisexual awakening? And there were so many funny answers, but the most consistent one, second only to Desperado, because Antonio Banderas and Selma Hayek are also sweaty and hot, that whole movie, was The Mummy. They all kept saying
Valid.
The Mummy was Brendan Fraser.
Well, because Brendan Fraser,
super hot in that
oh my
movie.
God. Yeah, he equal. I mean, he's beautiful in that movie. And The Mummy, they were just like, it's all hotties. Okay, we're casting all tens in this movie, you know? And they did.
Yeah.
They did it.
It was
They
the
really
most
did it.
prevalent answer to, I guess, a whole generation was that movie. I know Chelsea has mentioned she's a big bookworm. So do either of you have a favorite book series, maybe even a comfort read, however you want to frame it?
Probably like, you know what? I'm just gonna actually tell you guys a book I just finished. It's one of the best books I've ever read because it's kind of hard for me to pick a favorite. I just read this book called Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver, and it is one of the best books I've ever read. It's like an Appalachian American version of David Copperfield, and it's a lot about sort of like people I feel like in our country, like I'm from the Boot Heel in Missouri, and a lot of people don't even know what that is. You know, it's like people that kind of feel forgotten in this country, and like it deals with the foster system and kids that are in that system. But it's also told with this amazing prose, and like it's also darkly funny in parts. And it's just one of the best books I've read in a long time. So if you're looking for your next book, I would recommend that one.
You said comfort. There's a lot of books that made like just an absolute impact on me, and I might not read them again, but I have read The Mist, Stephen King's The Mist novella, which of course was adapted by Frank Darabont. That one, very Lovecraftian, cosmic. That one is very rereadable, and I just dig everything about it. How big the world is that he touches on, but yet it's in Stephen King style, situated in this small coastal town, and they get stuck in a grocery store. But it feels so big, and it explores so many ideas and so much fear, but yet it's so blue collar and relatable, which is Stephen King's brand. But The Mist, I've read probably 5 times, and I will read it again.
Wow.
Nice.
It's a novella, so it's not a long read.
I've never read it, so I'll put it on my list.
Question 8, you, Chelsea, have mentioned that you do dog walking as a kind of a side hustle. What would you say each of you is your favorite dog breed?
Oh, I don't do it as a side hustle. I volunteer at the animal shelter.
Oh, apologies.
I was like, don't call me
even
to
more
walk
out
the
of love.
dog.
No, it's truly out of love.
It's just they, the staff doesn't have the time to always play with and walk the dogs because there's so much medical stuff that needs to happen, and I have to get steps. So I'm like, this is like the perfect volunteer thing for me. My favorite breed is definitely dachshunds. That's what I have, a dachshund. His name's Merle, and I'm just obsessed with him. He's my child, and they say if you want to like a dog that will prepare you to have a child, get a dachshund because they can like he can like fully open I had to childproof my cabinets with those little plastic things. Like he can open stuff and he can smell anything. Like if you hide his toys in a locked box or a cabinet, it's like a game we do and he'll find it. I love hounds and he's just the best.
I've never had a dog, so I just get to enjoy them through visiting other people or here in Los Angeles. I swear to God, everybody has a dog, yet they live in apartments. Yeah. It's just like I'm the only one walking up Los Feliz or Beechwood without a dog. But I will say Labradors.
Can't go wrong with a lab.
I kind of dig labs the most. Yeah.
They're so sweet. They are the best. They're the best. Nessie, I can't go against Merle, but that's a great choice, Brian.
Yeah, we were former owners of two mini dachshunds. We loved them very much. And we had some little dapple short hairs and they're no longer with us. But yeah, you're right about the prepping for a kid. They were a lot.
That's what mine is. He's a chocolate dapple short hair.
I'm now in Brian mode. Like we are now dog aunties and uncles. We'll watch people's dogs or they can come visit, but we're done. We've had dogs our entire lives. And it's so nice now to like have a house that doesn't have hair and smells and we can just lock the door and go. Question number something. I've lost track here. What would you say? This is kind of specific to each of you. You mentioned living in the corner of Missouri yourself, Chelsea, and Brian in the military. Is there one thing, Chelsea, you miss about the Midwest in LA? And is there one thing, Brian, you could say you miss about your time in the military?
I go back and forth so much between LA and the Midwest, which is really nice because, of course, I miss my family a lot when I'm in LA. But I would say when I'm in the Midwest, what I miss about LA is the anonymity. I love living somewhere where nobody kind of knows who I am and doesn't give a fuck. Like, I know that sounds weird, but I just love going to Target and looking like trash and just getting what I need and getting out. When you live in a small town in the Midwest, you're going to go into the store and you're going to run into like 6 people, and sometimes that's nice, but I kind of like being a small fish in a big pond. There's just something about feeling like you can just be anyone on any given day in LA that I really like. I like that.
In the military, definitely miss doing the job of, riding in the back of helicopters, fast roping out of helicopters, climbing mountains with your boys and just seeing things and doing things, even in training where you're like, we are here, we are doing it. We are at the tip of the spear. And there's a pride. It's like a performer on stage or an athlete who's playing football in the NFL on Sunday. You recognize that you are doing something you will not be able to do forever. And once it's gone, it's gone. And there's such a camaraderie and you just look at each other when you're there and doing it. Like we're about to jump out of an airplane. And as nervous as you are, or as much as you're just hoping you don't break an ankle this time, it's performing at a level and having the ability to do something that is rare. And once it's gone, it's gone.
And Brian, didn't you have that thing happen that's like everyone's worst fear where you jump out of a plane and the chute got messed up and you like hit your head on the plane or something?
Oh, yeah.
Didn't you almost die? What happened?
I didn't almost die, but I was dragged behind a C-17, which for people who don't know, that's basically a jetliner, a huge airliner. And jumping out at night on a training mission and my parachute got snagged on some gear and I was dragged behind a giant airliner for 6 minutes. They pulled me back in, stitches in my chin, no worse for the wear, but that was quite an experience. Mission Impossible, where Tom Cruise is hanging on the side of the airplane there. It was kind of like that.
That's who you need to work with, Brian. You need to work with Tom Cruise because you could handle it. If he was like, Brian, we got to jump out of this plane together and do, you got to get this shot or what, you would be like, okay.
If anyone can make that call, I'd be happy to take that meeting.
Hell yeah. Come on, Tom Cruise. We need you and Brian to work together.
There's not many people Tom Cruise could meet and be like, hey, I've done that same stunt, but for real, not for fun.
I did serve him once when I was bartending. I worked at Lucky Strike in Hollywood that just opened up, and he came in with Katie Holmes and their kids. He was married to Katie Holmes, right? I don't want to get that wrong.
At the time, and they have one kid.
Yeah. And he was so nice, and he was shooting pool, and he let just he invited some just young 20-something guys who were waiting to play pool. Come on, play with us. And paid for everything. So I have to say my one experience with Tom Cruise, super nice guy, and delivered, was the charismatic, awesome celebrity that you would hope he would be in public.
Small caveat, in public. Katie Holmes might have different stories. But yes.
That is correct.
Yeah.
I can only speak for myself.
I don't know, of course. Do either of you have a favorite concert you've ever attended or a very memorable concert experience?
Yeah, I have a lot. I've been really fortunate to go to some great concerts, but I'll tell you about one. I went to see Prince in LA. And I feel very, very fortunate to have gotten to see Prince before he passed away. And the night that I was there, Stevie Wonder happened to be in the audience, and Prince brought him up on stage, and they did Superstition together. And that's got to be definitely in my top
Yeah.
concert experiences of all time. It was incredible. I was like, what? Like how? Like I just couldn't. It was like Double Rainbow, that Double Rainbow video where it's like, oh my god, it was incredible.
I'm definitely a huge music guy. For just the niche thing, I went to early on. I got to see Morbid Angel, Cannibal Corpse, and Nile. I think even Deicide was there all at the same time. That's like a super death metal group, like show that's unlikely to ever happen again. But really, my best concert experience was one of the early Oz fests. Me and my friends went and got the cheap seats way up in the it was San Bernardino, way up in the lawn, so far away from stage. And it was Black Sabbath's first time getting back together after like 20 years. And when Black Sabbath went on to close out the show at night, they shut all the lights down for a really dramatic entrance, which was a huge mistake because it looked like, again, like a Lord of the Rings, all us poor people way up in the lawn. We all started jumping all the fences. We overran security barriers. They were tackling everyone they could. And me and like 5 of my buddies made it to the very front of the pit. So it just wasn't seeing Black Sabbath back together for the first time. It was this dramatic medieval storming the castle that we did. So there was like danger and adventure. And then at the end, we're seeing, Ozzy and Black Sabbath just 20 feet away. I'll never forget that.
How old were you when you did that, Brian?
God, I was in high school. So probably
That's
like
awesome.
maybe a senior.
Very cool.
Yeah, great answers in both accounts here. Similar music question. Even if you do not do karaoke yourself, if you had a karaoke song, what would it be? What would be your go-to if we were hammered at a karaoke bar? What are you getting up and singing?
So this ties in with the movie. Brian and I were in London for the film festival, and we had such a wonderful time there. That's where our international premiere was. And Brian's like, we got to hit the streets. We got to get people to come to our screening. We can't have an empty house. And there was this big karaoke night for the festival. And I do karaoke. I will get up and do karaoke. I'm an actor. Like, it doesn't bother
This is Fright Fest. I just want to.
This is Fright Fest. Sorry. Fright Fest, by the way, I said Film Fest. Fright Fest is the most fun I've ever had at a film festival, by the way. I had a freaking blast. Like, if you can ever go to this festival, go. It's so
one of the
much
good ones.
fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my God. It was so fun. And I love the UK. Like, I had a blast. But we go to this karaoke night, and I was like, Brian got me. So he's like, Chelsea, you're doing it. He signed me up. And because that's my chance to plug the bunker and get people to come to see our screening. And I sang Bitch by Meredith Brooks, which is like solid, it's like people are going to like that. And then I'm like, please come see our screening, come see the bunker. And a lot of people came. There were so many people that came to our screening that were like, we saw you at karaoke. And like,
Nice.
like karaoke brought everyone together.
I have a hard no karaoke rule. I'll go and I'll watch unless it's 3 a.m. in K-Town and enough sake has flown. Then maybe I'll jump on, but it's going to have to be like a Tom Petty Learning to Fly. That's just what it's going to be.
Right.
Oh, I love that song.
That works. So now we know we just got to get a lot of sake, and Brian is all get him up.
Yeah, Brian will do karaoke if he's drunk enough. Come on, you'll do it, Brian.
We're going to end on this. What would be your respective, and again, this could be acting or filmmaking in Chelsea's case, or just writing, directing, producing, whatever in Brian's case, but what would be your dream role or project? Is there an original idea out there? Is there a fictional character, a historical figure, or some story you'd like to tackle? What's the end-all be-all dream gig for you guys?
Oh, God. Brian, go first. This is hard, and I'm trying to narrow it down in my head because I have like 3.
I know I've been hitting the Twilight Zone heavy here, but I think that doing like a Shakespeare in love of Rod Serling or The Man Who Invented Christmas for Charles Dickens, where you get to see how the man, Rod Serling, came up with these ideas, or what did he see on the street, and it becomes almost a Twilight Zone within a Twilight Zone as a biopic, if that makes sense. And I think just him as a World War II veteran, jumping a paratrooper, and then just making waves in the 50s and 60s as a writer and producer and shepherding, weird fiction and these morality plays to the forefront. I think all that jazz is another great, very surreal exploration of how a well-known artist creator came up with their ideas by sort of putting them. Anyways, let me just say Shakespeare in Love for Rod Serling. I think that would be the ultimate sort of project for me.
Wow, very cool. I think for me, one that I just really would like to check off my bucket list is I really, really want to make a Western, especially if I'm not just the damsel in distress type character. Like I would love to be able to be a little bit of a gunslinger myself, and I would love to do a Western that has great dialogue, like Deadwood. I mean, with that being said, I love anything historical and like period, but my grandpa loved Westerns and I grew up watching them with him. And that would be a really, really wonderful thing to be able to do. And I feel like the area that I'm from, like I'm not a real cowgirl, but there's like real cowgirls and real cowboys from where I'm from and people that are really big into the horse community. And I think it would just be such a great experience. And I hope that's something that I get to do.
No, here's hoping in both cases, and sign me up for your Western and his Rod Serling movie, because I'm a big Twilight Zone fan myself and Rod Serling fan. Planet of the Apes, everything he was ever associated with, Night Gallery, some of the stuff he's written and or handed off. But yeah, I'd be in the front row. I would charge my way to the front row, Brian style, to see that movie.
So let's do it. I'll do it too.
You guys, you passed
with you.
You passed the rapid fire 15. There was no points. There was not an actual test. But yeah, thank you for those candid answers. We appreciate it. As for what's next for both of you, is there anything else coming up you can talk about, or not quite yet?
I signed an NDA.
Oh, see the bunker, basically.
Yeah, see the bunker. Okay. I want everybody to see it. And I also feel like if you like the bunker, watch Brian's other film, watch The Black String. The Black String is also really great, and I'm really proud to have been in that movie as well. And Frankie Muniz is great in that movie. But yeah, make it a double feature. Watch The Bunker and watch The Black String. Why not?
I agree, Chelsea. Good recommendations. As I mentioned, we're in production and sort of post on that Cosmic Horror documentary. Really excited about that. A lot of great interviews for the horror fans out there. Benson and Moorhead, Joe Lynch, Rebecca McKendry, Brian Usna, on, and with more to come. So it's going to be a great, real fun exploration of the cosmic horror genre. And I've got this cool little creep show-esque horror anthology kind of based on my military experience called Night Visions. So it's available on a little streamer called Vet TV, but we'll be rolling it out to sort of second window, bigger streamers for a broader horror audience to find. And that's super fun if you like creep show.
No, 100%. Thank you for the time for both of you, for both the rapid fire and for this interview. And please, everyone out there, check out The Bunker, available wherever you buy or rent movies on all those platforms we mentioned, like Amazon and iTunes and such. So once again, Brian, Chelsea, we appreciate all of this, and we will be pushing The Bunker as much as we can. Thank you again for talking to us today.
Thank you, Shawn.
Shawn, thank you. And thank you to the Paper Street family, Aaron, Cameron, everyone over there. Couldn't have made this movie without Paper Street.
We're glad to be a small cog in the crazy wheel that was this movie. So yes, Bunker on demand now, wherever you buy or rent movies. All right, our thanks again to both Brian and Chelsea for that conversation. And once more, check out The Bunker wherever you buy or rent movies, out now on demand. As for Paper Street Pictures, you can also check out our recent film Shelby Oaks, which is also available now on VOD outlets, and it'll be coming to a streamer soon. We'll announce that as soon as we can. In the meantime, check us out, paperstreetpictures.com. You can find Paper Street's link tree in our social bios as well. We're on all the things, either at Paper ST Pictures or Paper Street Pictures. This podcast is also on Instagram as well, at Paper Street Podcast. So we'll find you there, and we'll find you on the other side here. For Chelsea Edmundson, for Brain Hanson, and for my Paper Street crew and the missing co-host with the most, Becky Sayers, I am Shawn Talley. Sorry if we sucked. We will try to do better next time. Until that day, gang, get back to work.